Huh. Huh.
Ho! I'm glad the story we're covering inspired us to do some outdoor activities to train for the upcoming doom we may have caused.
Yeah, tomb raiding is actually a great exercise. Although, I think it's just a fancy way of saying grave robbery, isn't it?
Tomato, tomato.
Wait, Jake, you just said the same thing. Never mind. Did you bring any supplies to help us get through this trap-infested dungeon? Hi, Father. Is that a bullwhip?
Indeed it is, brother. Just like Indiana Jones
Indiana Jones is a registered trademark and intellectual property of the Walt Disney Company.
from the Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Raiders of the Lost Ark is also a registered trademark and intellectual property of Lucasfilm, a subsidiary of the Walt Disney Company, also known as the Mouse, the Big Cheese, owner of all that you love, and the place where creativity goes to die. Any other use of Indiana Jones or any pictures, descriptions, or accounts of anything owned by Disney, such as your own firstborn child, without consent is expressly prohibited by the Walt Disney Company.
Okay, sure it was useful in the movie, but what could it do in an actual situation like... Ow!
It makes you stop whining.
Good enough.
It's a bird. It's a plane. No, it's the Super Sons.
Hi, I'm Dan.
And I'm Jake.
And we are back. This week is right after Valentine's Day, so we wanted to do an episode a little bit tying into that. But before we get into the episode, Jake, you have not seen it, but Birds of Prey was just fucking awesome. It was fantastic. It was fantabulous, if you will.
Yeah, I actually really want to see this movie.
Yeah,
I haven't seen a lot of movies recently.
Yeah,
but I do really want to see this one.
I'm glad that we covered both Gail and Amanda and Jimmy's stories before I saw it, just because it felt like a marriage of their two interpretations of all those characters, and it was so good. I saw Sonic the Hedgehog today. That's not really DC news, but it was just also a great movie.
Oh, you mean the one where Sonic made more money than the Mario movie?
Yep. Sonic, #1 video game movie of all time.
Yep. Guys, this is a thing. Sonic wins.
We also, Jake and I crossed over the multiverse. We fought the mouse, and we're on an X-Men show, Battle of the Atom. So if you are listening to this, you've probably listened to that, I hope. We're not as naughty. I'm not as naughty over there.
I mean, I didn't say anything bad.
Yeah, I only said 2 bad words, and
which is wild because for every family gathering, I'm the one who gets told not to say anything.
Yeah. But I also got him to mention the name of a very specific movie he watched as a young man. It was great. We're the reason other people can have nice things. So, the theme of today's episode is love and pulp adventure. And this is an episode chosen by Jake. So, Jake, who are we talking about this episode?
Liberty Belle and Hourman, my favorite couple in the DC comics. In the DC
Battle
comics? In the DC comics, yes. As members of the other side have said, Detective Comics.
Do you want to tell us a little bit about? Wow, that was a really cool transition I just did.
What's that?
Got a lot of good energy. I also have both of the cats in the room tonight, and I honestly don't feel like kicking them out because if you hear them, if you are listening to the show, you probably know who they are by now. Corey and Mira are. One is sitting in the corner right now, staring at the wall. I'm just gonna let that go.
That Mira?
No, Corey. No, she's scratching the post now. But Jake,
okay.
Do you want to tell us a little bit about Liberty Belle first?
All right, so you guys might know Liberty Belle because she's also gone by another name, Jessie Quick. She's a Speed Force conduit. Speed Force conduit. Oof. It's been a long day, guys.
Tongue twister. Tongue twister. Ah, fuck.
But yeah, she uses her father Johnny Quick's mathematical formula to access the Speed Force. We went over this in our Flash episode, so go check that one out. She also has super strength from her mother, who was the original Liberty Belle. So she's a powerhouse, but also she's the CEO of a company called Quick Start that her father founded. And Dan, how much do you want to know about Hourman?
Jake, what you wrote on this page confused me. So why don't you make it a simple introduction of Hourman, who is just... let's not go into the future robot that also is Hourman as well.
Yes, that is Hourman number 3, also named as Matthew.
He's a robot.
He's an android. It's different.
All right, tell us about this Hourman, Rick Tyler.
All right, Rick Tyler is the second Hourman who took up the mantle for after his father when he joined Infinity Inc. And he did it because he didn't have a great relationship with his dad, so he was a little bit angsty in the beginning. So he took his dad's code name and Miraclo, which is grants him an hour of power and is one of the base elements in Venom. Oh, not elements, because drugs and Venom.
Yeah, it's one of like the base foundations.
Yeah, but Rick has had problems with Miraclo in the past, as it has given him... He has been addicted to it, and it's given him cancer. He had to stop being a superhero for a while because of a battle with leukemia. And then eventually he gains a new form of the drug, which is like non-addictive and non-dangerous, and he hits a button on his gauntlet, and it gives him an hour of power. Mm-hmm. That is one of the gifts from the android Hourman, who also gives him a precognitive power.
Yeah, so he has... I would like to describe his power as That's So Raven. It's the future that he can see.
Yeah. Yes, Dan.
He does. He's got those... I don't remember what Raven called them, but like she would get those like shocks. She'd be like, oh no! And she'd see the future. That's exactly what happens to Hourman in this story.
Yeah. That was a show. I remember watching a bunch of that once. Like, I got really into That's So Raven for like a week in elementary school.
I mean, that's fine. It's the future, I can see that. So Raven, it's so mysterious to me.
Dan.
Whatever. If we don't,
that's copyrighted.
If the Disney company wants to come after me for that, whatever.
That's so Raven. I love that meme.
All right, yeah, Jake. Okay, but now you're doing Star Wars, so 2 Disney properties they can come after us. 3. We are at our 3rd Disney property reference in this episode.
No, technically 4th. Because we also talked about the Battle of the Atom.
Oh, yeah, X-Men.
That's an X-Men podcast.
4. We're at 4 Disney references this episode.
Man.
So, the story that Jake chose is Liberty Belle and Hourman, The Inheritance, which is actually a backup in JSA All-Stars issue 12 through 11. As I was reading through this, I was seeing the A-plot, like the main story, and was like, no, I'm good, and just skipped right to this.
Yeah, that the A-plot, the main All-Stars book was pretty good, but I mean, I didn't like the art all that much. There was
some Sandman, which I liked. Sandy, not Sandman.
Well, he was just known as Sand at this point.
Yeah, but Jake, could you explain a little bit what a backup is for our listeners who are not familiar with that terminology?
A backup is basically like a tacked on 10 pages at the end of a single issue, and it'll carry over a story from multiple issues and then condense to, one larger story. Like we already covered one in our Shazam episode.
Did we?
Yes, we did. Remember that we covered the New 52
Oh, yeah,
Shazam?
that was a backup. Oh, that I forgot because that's such like an icon. It's like what the movie was based on, but it was a backup.
But did you forget we also recorded that with people we got into a Twitter war about baby oil and fire with today?
Let's get back to the story. So, a backup is usually for a character who sometimes can't make the
carry their own title.
Yeah, the sales aren't there for a title, but people want to see them. So it's a good way to show characters who don't normally get the spotlight. So seeing things like this is awesome. Like in the back of Detective comics when it was the Kate Kane run, there was a question backup, which was Renee Montoya, because she wasn't carrying her own book at the time, but she was still getting stories.
And the Booster Gold ongoing, the second Booster Gold ongoing had a backup of Blue Beetle. I think there was another book that had.
I don't remember. But Jake, you want to tell us about the creative team?
All right. So it's written by Jen Van Meter, pencils by Travis Moore, inks by Dan Green, colors by David Barron, letters by, why is it that
Pat Brosseau?
Pat Brosseau. Yeah, that. See, I looked at it and I'm like, man, this is gonna be a hard one. Letterers always have the harder names. You ever notice that?
Yeah. The thing with names is that, like, even if you get it wrong, like, one day someone will correct you and then you'll be right from there on out. Sometimes it's not even possible to look up and get a correct pronunciation because everybody's a little bit different. But do you want to kick it off?
Yeah. All right. Part 1, Staff of Legends. So the story opens up with some background about a staff with magical abilities, with its origins being like ancient Greece. It's legit just, Hermes' staff with, 2 snakes. Turns out it's actually just Jessie telling Rick this story, and because they're on vacation and she wants to spend it looking for the staff because it was something that was important to her father, Johnny. And the pair don their hero get-ups to go to a collector because they can't just go as 2. Well, I guess they're both kind of rich.
Yeah, they're both very well
because
off.
I don't know what Rick's connection to his father's company is. I know it's run by his cousin. But I'm getting off track. So they go to their collector named
Grissau.
Yeah, Grissau. See, I was gonna just put G when I was writing this up. But, Grunstass.
Yeah, I did something similar later.
Yeah. For a book that will help them find the staff, they're let in to meet him by his assistant, Claude Regan. The couple chats about the possibility of children briefly, with Jessie saying she thought Rick didn't want them, and before they can continue their conversation, boom, dead body of the collector.
Boom.
And then, boom, Icicle Jr. and Tigress, Artemis from Young Justice, who are also not a married couple, they are dating. I wrote that wrong. And they're also on vacation in Istanbul.
Istanbul, not Constantinople, Istanbul, not Constantinople.
Damn. I'm gonna say that's for use.
I'm sorry, but legally, anytime you read Istanbul, you have to sing the "They Might Be Giants" song.
That tracks. Mm-hmm. Then turns out the couple fight because Regan's dead now, but the 2 villains didn't actually kill him. Turns out Regan was going to sell the book to them, whereas Grunstass was going to sell it to the heroes. So we got an old indie versus bad guy, probably Nazi race to the mystic artifact. And you race that as I say it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, anybody who knows that has seen Indiana Jones knows that there's Nazis in it, Dan.
Are the Nazis in every single one?
No, normally it's just like kind of a German or like a...
I think in the latest one, the first and the last are like explicitly.
God, it's been a while since I've seen Crystal Skull, Dan.
I want to say it's not good, but I don't even feel like I know enough or remember enough to say it's not. It's different.
I have to rewatch them all. I rewatched Raiders.
But back to our story, because this is the episode where Disney is going to sue us.
Yeah, not DC. For reading all their stories and telling you guys what happens, so you don't actually have to go and buy them.
Whoops.
Yeah, I'm going to have to figure out a new model. But, so, yeah, that's a race to the mystic artifact at that point. But another shock is that the person that let the heroes in wasn't Regan at all, but a killer. The villains leave, and Jesse goes to find the killer before the duo do. Well, what?
Before the other... Jesse goes to find the killer before the other duo does, while Rick investigates. I didn't catch all of your stuff.
Yeah, I was.
Just continue.
Yeah. He finds a name of the lead, Peter Blue, and a location. Next stop is Venice.
Part 2, Menace in Venice. The villains are torturing some former henchmen to get some information that the heroes already have. Jessie buys the last plane tickets to Venice, then disguises herself before selling those plane tickets to the villains because they're trying to get on the plane but not have anyone know who they are. Rick's like, wait, you sold them for cash? And then he tries to like make some dirty talk as Jesse runs them to Venice instead of flying, which in reality they could have done the whole time. Don't really know why they would fly.
I mean, technically Jesse at times can use her speed to fly.
Yeah, so there's no reason for them to be on a plane. Icicle.
Well, they were going to do it because the lead was that Blue could possibly be on the plane, but they couldn't find out.
Icicle fucks up the plane by freezing one of the wings after finding out that Blue is on the plane as well, despite Jesse having no indication that he'd actually be on the flight. Our heroes have a little more romance in Venice before continuing on their mission. Blue reveals that he has already sent in the book to his employer. Jesse finds the villains and the target in the airport. They have a little scuffle with Jesse holding Icicle before she's surrounded by the police.
Yeah, just an all-American superhero surrounded by a bunch of Italian cops.
Yep. I like the idea of, they mentioned a few times that not everyone knows who they are. Like, internationally, people are like, they don't really give a shit about the JSA.
And then there's other places where they're signing autographs.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah. But, so part 3, let's make a deal. Jesse takes Icicle out of the airport. He tells her to go get Tigress, so she chases her down. They ask where Hourman is, and he's having some vision about an hour in the future while he's trying to read a newspaper. Because, normal guy stuff. In his vision, he sees the villains hurt Jesse. Elsewhere, we see Blue meets his client, and they chat about the book. The client is not happy. Rick calls Jesse to get her to come back because he's got a lead. He's found where Blue is and his client, so they're going to go investigate. And when they get there, they find half the book, but Blue and his client are not there. So then the heroes run into the villains and they scuffle because the heroes think they kidnapped Blue and thinks that the evidence is in the bag. Turns out it's just money because turns out they were going to buy the book legit. Rick suggests a team up because after learning that they're just going to buy the book, get the staff, set up a retirement for them. And then they kind of, are fighting in a Venice canal and Icicle freezes it and then the ice shatters and they all take a pratfall into the water, which, guys, you don't want to do because... Dan, do you know anything about the Venice canals?
It's gross.
Yep. That's right, Dan.
You nasty.
And then
hit catchphrase from the show. That's so Raven.
So we're gonna have Raven Simone on here.
Oh man, this episode has to be called "That's So Hourman."
I thought I sent you a name for this episode, but I can't remember it.
Yeah, but now it's "That's So Hourman."
That's fair. That's so Hourman. All right, guys. If that's not the episode name, you go on Dan's Twitter and yell at him. But so Jesse thinks Rick's crazy for this team up.
Part 4, Underground! Resistance! Movement!
I love the
titling is
title.
So good.
This book is so good. We're not doing it any justice.
Yeah. So, we get the story of an Arabic legend where a woman uses the staff to heal people. Tigress tells Jesse that their client are willing to pay up to $6 million. Jesse is like, this book actually won't help you because there's a different staff in that one with one snake and not two. Always two snakeheads, not one. Icicle and Hourman go to investigate.
Snakehole, guys. Janet Snakehole.
That is owned by the NBC Corporation, who is owned by Comcast. We're good. So Icicle and Hourman go to investigate a cave where they are going to meet Blue, but they come upon a chapel amid fun banter. Turns out it's a trap. The guys try calling their significant others, who they can't contact because Icicle has pretty much iced out their signal.
Ice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Jesse and Tigress must go in to save them using a tracker that Tigress has implanted on Icicle. NBD. The guys go deeper into the cave where it pretty much just becomes uncharted because they do some platforming. Through this adventure, Hourman is starting to see Icicle more and more as a person rather than just a supervillain because they're not trying to kill each other. We get a backstory on Icicle Jr.'s birth and how his mother actually died giving birth to him because of his condition of being ice. Rick reveals that they have half the book, and that really does piss off Ice. The girls find the guys under a small town. Jesse and Rick get lovey-dovey now that they are reunited. Ice is pissed about the attempted double cross, but Tigress is like, fuck it, let's go get some breakfast because it's been 3 days of no food.
I really, really love the dynamic between Icicle and Hourman in this book.
Yeah, it's really good.
So good. All right, part 5, Bahamian Trap City. Our duos get a plane to an island where they find a cave layered in booby traps, which the women treat as a fun puzzle. And the guys are just like, yeah, they really like this shit. And then they discover there's 12 triggers, as in 12 apostles. Ice, Tiger, Hourman get one, while Jesse gets all the others. Through the unlocked shrine arises a stone podium. Oh yeah, pedestal. That's the word I was trying to think of when I was writing this. I had a stressful day when I wrote this. And the podium's covered in Latin, which Jesse reads, because Johnny Quick really made her learn a lot of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
From the pleasure... the booby traps that were...
The pleasure plates?
Pleasure plates. Pressure plates in the floor. A mist starts to rise up. The couples realize it's time to get the hell out of Dodge, which is interrupted as Rick gets a premonition, which causes him to lag behind. He almost gets crushed by a great gate while trying to catch up. And here we find out Rick is refusing to use his mirror cloak.
He's not trying to use his mirror cloak.
And then they all reunite and everyone loves each other, blah, 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 blah. Well, no, Jesse goes back and saves her husband, and they get, they reunite with the other lovebirds. At a resort in the Bahamas, we see Blue pushing his client in a wheelchair. We get 2 separate scenes of the couples interacting in private. We see Jesse ask Rick why he didn't use his Miraclo, and it turns out because he wants it out of his system because he wants to have a child with her. But because of the leukemia, he doesn't want to risk the Miraclo affecting their baby. Later, Hourman and Icicle meet up at to drink at the resort's restaurant, while the girls figure out the next step in the adventure.
Part 6, Paris, City of Fights. The team goes to Notre Dame Cathedral, where they find an engraving that tells a story of despot that used the staff to conquer Central Europe before being disposed by priests. While Jesse tells the story, Rick falls from the cathedral due to a precognitive vision, needing to be saved by Ice and Jesse. Down in the crypts, the group finds Blue and gives chase. They find a passage from the crypt into the subway where Tigress tackles Blue into a train while Rick dives to save them both. We see the train pass by with a familiar blue mist they saw earlier. Icicle is upset until he hears Tigress say Blue evaporated. He thought they went bye-byes. They thought he thought they were turned to mist by the subway, meaning the mist was actually blue. He's got powers. It dawns on Tigress that the mist in the cave in part 5 was also blue. While everyone chased him to the subway, Jesse found another passageway in the crypt and made a discovery. Our story quickly flips to Blue yelling at his boss before storming out. His boss calls Grunster only to find out that he's dead. R.I.P. They find another clue of what appears to be a pyramid or a mountain. Boom! Heroes get double-crossed after the villains get the objects from Jesse, and Ice and Jesse fall into a trap before a giant floor tile falls on top of them, almost crushing them if they didn't have powers. Tigress asks Hourman to help her get the stone off, but he's kind of like, nah, you can figure it out.
Yeah, he's like, nah, we're good. Tell me what's up. Part 7. Miraclo under Rue 34. Tigress says she needs Hourman's help and tries to guilt him into helping them. The two below of the stone are able to hold it up just for the time being. Hourman says he'll help in return for the objects the villains took. Rick takes Miraclo in a moment of bliss to get an hour of power and lifts the stone. After being saved, Jesse goes off of the villains while Tigress tells Hourman she's sorry because clearly just doing what he had to do to gain his power was hard for him to do. And God, I just want to point out how well the art gets across certain things.
Yeah, it's very good.
It is very good. Travis Moore, good at comics.
I would have known.
Anyone who's read the Nightwing stuff recently would know.
Mm-hmm.
Hi. Once everyone is calm, they agree to stop Blue, and whoever gets the staff first gets to keep it. After they split up, Tigress says she got the objects back, but Rick Shag already knows that she took the book, their half of the book. And because he knows something else is up. The hero's get a call from Wildcat to go to Geneva to meet a Professor Boris Hayes, whose body looks like it is melting. Turns out, as a younger man, he was an archaeologist who came upon a formula in a scroll that turned him into mist, and each time he used it, he became smarter, but then he started losing sight of his family, and his own bone mass started to decrease. By the time he realized that he was pretty disfigured, and he's been using his powers limited to render himself physically not disfigured. And turns out that the man we've been seeing with Blue is just this man, and it's his father. Blue has been getting, instead of smarter every time he uses his power, to angrier. And as Boris Hayes is explaining this, Hourman has a pre-clogged flash of Tigress and Ice Cold being carried off by a snowdrift before he passes out.
Part 8, Avalanche. Blue is now working with the supervillains in the Swiss Alps. Jessie checks on her husband, who fainted from the effects that the Miraclo had on him. The heroes are told where to go by the professor as it cuts back to the villains, who discover a big old spooky-licious key. Blue turns on the pair before shooting Tigress. The heroes arrive in time to help. We find out that Tigress has been pregnant the entire adventure. Icicle tells Rick that they wanted the staff to save Tigress from dying in childbirth like Icicle's mother. Rick tries to comfort Icicle Jr., and Jesse tries to have a similar conversation with Tigress.
Part 9. Bad to the bones. After going to another cathedral, Icicle points out that this place is probably a hotspot for goth weddings. While checking it for traps, Jesse finds that the professor is under a bunch of coffins as he's tried to stop his son. And good old Peter Blue threw them all at him. So Blue has found the lock for the key and finds the staff. In a flash, Liberty Belle takes the staff and Blue shoots her, but she's fine. So the rumors are true, the staff makes you invincible, and Belle and Ice fight Blue, while Icicle lectures Blue on his choice of code name because he could have been Mr. Blue or Hayes because his last name is Hayes. But Liberty Belle points out that this would mean he had to owe it all to his father, which pisses Blue off, and so he tries to attack Belle, but Icicle freezes him into snow, effectively killing him. Belle is upset that she had to be a part of this murder, but Icicle says chalk it up to him being a bastard.
Part 10. Pass it on. The professor tries the staff to help him recover, but it actually doesn't work. On the side, Hourman questions Icicle on if it actually bothers him to kill. It's nothing to really be bothered by because Blue's actually fine. He appears the spear because he can just miss objects too. Blue goes to stab Tigress, but Hourman jumps in the way, which impales him through the stomach. The villains fight for the staff against Blue to give it to Hourman to save him. The professor says to get his son close to him so they can mist merge. Jesse makes a vortex and Blue flies off with the professor, having the staff, which saves Hourman's life. The professor tells Jessie that her father must have been proud of her before he passes. So everything's fine and dandy. 1 month later, at Quick Start, Jessie's company, a man has broken in to put back the staff. The light flips on with Belle saying that she knows it's Rick. He actually took it to help Icicle and Tigress give birth to their daughter Isabel, spelled like Liberty Belle. Everyone's happy, and the end. Jake, what was your favorite panel of this story?
Oh, the hug between Jesse and Rick at the end.
I am a big fan of Hourman and Icicle sitting on the hill looking at the sun, like the sun together, just talking. So my favorite moments are pretty much all of the bonding between the two, just because it's like they can understand each other a little bit better. And I always like heroes kind of seeing why the villains are the way they are.
Oh yeah, Rick is very understanding of people.
Especially because it seems like he's been through a lot as well. I can't speak to it much because I haven't read a ton of JSA stuff, but...
Yeah, no, Rick is a very understanding character. Like, there is in the Justice Society of America book, after the JSA run, Jesse and Rick, there's a page of Jesse and Rick at a restaurant, and they're like signing autographs, and they like Rick will talk, not signing autographs. Rick is talking to the waiter, and he's literally trying to get to know every single person. Like, he's just like the nicest human being, and like he's talking to the waiter. He's like, "Oh, you want to be an architect? I got a guy you can call." He's like, "Call John Stewart." Literally, he tells this young kid to call Green Lantern to set up something at his firm. It's great. So, Dan, what's your favorite quote?
The back and forth about calling him a sport that they have for the entire story. Like, Hourman, it's like, can you stop calling me sport? But Icicle keeps going back to it, but not in like a demeaning way, but in kind of like a jest. I just thought they were great. Their dynamic is really fun. Yeah,
like they're really bro-y. It's great. My favorite quote was between Tigress and Hourman, and it's Tigress saying, "You can't make bargains like that. You're one of the good guys." And Hourman's like, "Yeah, well, I'm not feeling so good just now." During the having to take his mirror club.
Jake, if you were going to suggest people wanted to read more about Jesse Quick or Hourman, what should they pick up?
Ooh, so there was a mini series of JSA All-Stars before this ongoing came out. That has a pretty good story of one issue where it's Rick going up and saving a man from committing suicide. It's one of those stories, and it's really, really good. Then there is for Jesse. Ooh, that's a good question. She's in so much stuff. She's in a lot of Flash stuff. So, God, just go read all of that. Jesse's a great character. Like, if you go into the JSA series,
yeah,
when she comes in, like she's like she's like, her quick start just failed because she was so focused on certain things, and like it's very interesting to see her mom and her reconcile because they were never close.
Is that Jeff Johns' run?
I can't remember if Johns got on it or it was still Robinson. And all I know is that whole run, for the most part, Goyer was one of the writers.
Mm-hmm. Well, we will be back in 2 weeks where we'll be covering...
Oh, a third one. The Hourman series featuring the android Hourman's pretty wacky. Like, the covers are great.
Yeah. Oh, so our next episode is actually about the new Teen Titans, so get excited for that. You can find us on Twitter at Daisy Super Sons, on Instagram at Super Sons Pod, and on Facebook as Super Sons. You can find me on Twitter at Dan the McMahon. And Jake, where can they find you?
Oh, you can find me on Twitter at Jake Likes Otters.
Easy enough. All right, catch us next time. Same bat time, same bat channel.
Bye.